Welcome to the NAP, the no answer period, where we cover the question period prefaced by a review of the far left evil that has beset our land and the events that surround it. The NAP is a daily show, so please join us at 45 minutes prior to question period or until the government decides to stop showing up in the lower house. We're streaming on 3 platforms, Rumble, X, and CommieTube, so please like, share, thumbs up, follow, subscribe, and most of all, the chat is up, so please feel free to ask any questions. Keep it clean and don't be abusive. Comments drive the algorithm when I'm not driving the algorithm down with my forbidden words. So, let's get into it. As we can see, the House is sitting this morning. A bill was introduced, Bill C-252, an act to amend the criminal code to try to deal with all the insanity and death happening on our streets that the Liberals have unleashed on Canada. But before we get to that, let's catch up on our very first story of what we've been tracking every day now for a couple of weeks is the situation at the BC farm. Now, finally, the leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre, finally decided to say something about it, but not because it was planned. He held a scrum late yesterday.
Stance on the ostriches in British Columbia and the culling order that they are facing.
Really incredible that the Liberals have caused so much. Because of Liberal incompetence, we're in this mess. And when you have an incompetent government, you have messes like the inflation crisis, like the crime crisis, like the border crisis, like the investment crisis, like the fastest shrinking economy in the entire G7. When you have an incompetent government, you get lots of these messes.
Wait, on the ostriches, sir. Sir, you didn't say what your stance is on the ostriches.
This lady.
Why won't you answer your stance on the ostriches?
I just did. I said the Liberals are incompetent. That's my stance.
Do you support the culling order?
Can I just...
Can we get your reaction to the new lumber tariffs?
Yes. Well, first of all... I just did. I said the Liberals are incompetent. That's my stance.
Do you support the culling order?
Can I just...
Can we get your reaction to the new lumber tariffs?
Yes. Well, first of all... Really incredible that the Liberals have caused so much. Because of Liberal incompetence, we're in this mess. And when you have an incompetent government, you have messes like the inflation crisis, like the crime crisis.
So the senator, who's a CPC insider, gets appointed as a senator. He's actually just a little younger than me. He gets appointed as a senator, and then one of the first things he gets put into, he's in a working group to push forward Bill S11, one of the contributors, and then he actually tables it forward. And then that sets the framework up for the CFIA to establish their own legislation answerable to no one except the minister. That's how this happened. Maybe that's why Pierre Poilievre is being quiet on this. But while I was looking into the senator, right in his biography was something very strange at the very end of it, that he is moonlighting as a vice president of financial affairs for a private retirement home company. I didn't know we were paying our senators so bad that they needed to moonlight in a second job. Hmm. Well, so that is as far as the CPC leader has gone to acknowledging the call. He has just said basically it's grouped in with all the incompetence. So the Conservatives have their fingers all over the legislation that created this situation. Maybe that's why the leadership in the old guard are apprehensive to say anything about it. I do not know. And it's also interesting that a sitting senator who's a sitting committee member on banking, which is fine, but why is he working outside of the Senate? It's not enough work for him in the Senate to take care of Canadians? No, it's not like the country's falling apart. Well, let's look at our next panel here. So, as a good reminder as to why this 543 farms have been culled due to avian flu policies. A farmer was under the Inquisition for 6 hours in Abbotsford for 5 dead chickens. Within 3 days, every single bird, 50,000 chickens and ducks were slaughtered. The CFIA could not have determined the death of the 5 or 50,000 chickens that died were contagious and did not have access to the lab in Winnipeg over the weekend. The policy says only a suspicion warrants the destruction, nothing else. That's what we've been saying all along. It is their own self-creating legislation. They are the ultimate in the creation of their own self-licking ice cream cone. They are answerable to no one. They simply make communist decrees like this and then slaughter your entire property. The policy says only a suspicion warrants the destruction, nothing else. They have spent over $11 million in CO2, or is that COP2? 2.5 years, that they use to kill the birds in the barns. Oh, actual CO2. Okay, $11 million of carbon dioxide that they use to kill the birds in the barns. The remains are collected as biowaste and distributed at a dairy farm. The farmer is then responsible for the cleanup. Power washing, supposedly toxic waste is to be rinsed off. Or $18,000 worth of heating in the barn. Yeah, it's just insane. Some farms have gone through this 4 or 5 times. Do you imagine that? CFIA just shows up. Hey, your chickens look sick. Let's kill them all. Oh, you can't do it. No, we have the right. Kill them all. Just like that. Eradicate your entire property. Why do you think they're doing this? So that they completely destroy every landowner in Canada so that their rich buddies can come in and control the entire planet. That's what they're doing. Destroying personal and private property. One slice at a time. Some farms have gone through this 4 or 5 times. The toxic waste then remains. The farmer takes it as a cost of business and are closing. Imagine that. Communist takeover, shutting down farms, increasing lack of food availability. Mass hunger. Oh, a trademark of communism. CFIA is being dispatched by Agriculture and Health Canada. Moderna has just set up shop in Quebec for mRNA vaccines as of September 14, 2025. Now he's saying here, this is about the vaccine industry, trillions of dollars. And in November 2024, supposed human avian flu, Jocelyn, the ventilator, was destroyed her vocal cords. The birds have immunity. They want them dead. Millions are being spent to ensure the farms are left helpless. The autonomy has been stripped with terrorism and inhumanity. Find all the information at saveourostriches.com. Go to news, go to back, right. So, Canadians are not aware of what these people are doing. The Canadians. Now, let's shift gears into the criminality that has been unleashed on our lands as we slide into Bill C-242. Here we have a Toronto Crime Watch. The previous two adult suspects charged in a Markham home invasion shooting and kidnapping of Sakir Bhatti, 21, in Ajax parking lot, Anglia 20 of Brampton, were released on bail immediately, even with a slew of serious charges, including attempted murder, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, robbery with a firearm, disguised with intent, possession of restricted firearm, knowingly not holding a license, possession of a prohibited device, knowing no authority, and possession of property obtained by crime over $5,000. So we have probable kidnapping, robbery with a firearm, attempted murder. That tells me there was some violence. Right. And what do you think happened? Released on bail. Released on bail immediately. Meanwhile, our country is still going after political prisoners who dare to protest the government over fascist vaccine mandates for an experimental injection that keeps being proved day after day that it was harmful, deadly, and didn't do a damn thing to protect or prevent transmission. Let's go after those criminals, but not the real criminals. Every day, we keep telling you, these chaos agents are doing this on purpose to destroy our country. So here is a piece from Mario, wondering, why do we have so many criminals in Canada?
Number of gangland people, number of people with organized crime links from Punjab have been made welcome in Canada. We have been telling Canada, saying, look, these are wanted criminals from India. You have given them visas. They have come, many of them, in false documentation. And yet you allow them to live there. If you decide to import for political purposes people with very dubious, actually very negative background, there will be issues. They have, in some cases, created problems in their own country, result of their own policies.
That is the Minister of External Affairs for India. His own words, we're letting in criminals into our country. They warned us, and they're coming in with fake documents. These are people that create issues in their own countries, and if Canada's doing it for political purposes, we're going to have a problem. His words, not mine. Immigration is out of control, and we need to do a better job of vetting so we only get the best of the best of the best. This is insane.
Number of gangland people.
The thing is, we had a working system before the Liberals took over the government in 2015. We had a very well-functioning system that immigrants were being vetted and people were being dealt with that shouldn't be here. And the Liberals decided that, no, that did not fit their communist purposes. They needed to open up the floodgates, not vet anybody, so that they could put social pressure on Canada, destroy society, so that they could bring in their authoritarian bills. We know what they're doing. And we're not the only people who recognize it. Even the First Peoples do.
Now they have the fentanyl. Fentanyl's free. Fuck, you can get high when you want and can kill your ass too. But the government don't care. They don't care about your addiction. They don't give a fuck about you.
People on the streets are noticing. If you're on the streets, you've noticed. You've noticed the human decay and death happening at the hands of the Liberals, handing out free drugs to everybody to get them addicted and to ensure that the local population slowly dwindles away and dies so that they can be replaced. In fact, here's our fertility rate. Let's bring this up. Look at this, eh? What happened here? So Great Depression, and we go around, end of Second World War, right? And then the baby boomers, they get a bunch of babies, right? And then that would be me right here at the peak. Yeah. And then after that, it was all downhill for Canada. And then, yeah, contraceptions was approved, not everywhere in Canada, but eventually went around. Contraception, abortion decriminalized, right? And then, of course, with feminism in there, you have a lot of less babies. And look at this, 1970s, eh? The entire feminist movement took hold, and boom, there go the babies. There goes your replacement population, the West. Yes, you feel empowered, but you have no children. And now your legacy is gone. Your legacy of feminism and societal destruction for your own narcissistic needs has resulted in negative population growth. Indeed. And that was just another reason, as part of the long plan put in place by the system, put in by those KGB agents so long ago to destroy the West from within. Well, they've succeeded. And now the final conclusion is in place where the eco-green meet with the militant ideological green. When we mean green, we mean Islam, because they have a lot of people in their countries and they're just mass importing them along with India to replace this collapsing population. So I think I just showed you it's over. It's over with the Canada you knew, the Canada that all of us grew up through the 60s, 70s, and enjoyed in the 80s and peaked in the 90s with. That's gone. That's never coming back. We are on a path of self-destruction and bureaucratic Kafkaesque nightmares. Let's move on to our next panel. Now, we know that the liberals are completely anti-oil, anti-energy. Anything to do that can exploit our natural resources and increase the wealth of the population is something the liberals do not want. They need to keep people poor so that they can push forward their poverty initiatives to keep people poor by keep taxing them into despair. You know, Canada is wealthier than Saudi Arabia. If we exploited our resources at a fraction of what Saudi Arabia does, none of us would have to work. We would have so much money handed over to us by the government from companies coming here and exploiting our wealth and then putting out those dividends. We could actually have a really nice country. But instead, we have a liberal nation. Now, here's an Imperial Oil whistleblower alleges that was sent to Mario. And he explains as to how these liberal policies, anti-energy, anti-development policies, and what they have done to a lot of the companies that no longer want to work here in Canada. Hey, Mario, I am an employee at Imperial, and while I'd like to stay anonymous, if you post my comments, I do want to clarify many points that were left out of the press release and missed by the comments made in the legislature. It's always good to know, right? Because, oh, I've been there so many times in the background when I was in the military, listening to people spouting off about something that I knew they were not telling the complete truth about and had no venue to say anything. That's good that a whistleblower here had some exposure from Mario. While they are laying off 20% of the staff, this number is misleading. They will be keeping all of the below field staff, the term they are using for people working at the site. They will be laying off almost all of the above field staff, office employees. I feel that the term laying off is also misleading as they are not eliminating those roles. A large portion of those roles will be moved to what they call global business centers, which is their not so clever way of saying outsourcing. Those few that are moved to Houston, or the office space they plan on adding at the Strathcona refinery, will be left in a position of little to no potential career progression. If you are unaware, Imperial is 70% owned by ExxonMobil. This shift isn't even about Imperial cost cutting. This is about ExxonMobil shipping the value of Canadian resources to Houston, India, and Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires? Buenos Aires? Oh, it's interesting that they're doing business in an authoritarian state like Brazil. Oh, and if you don't know why I'm calling it that, you should do some research of what's happened there over the last 15 years and how the judiciary has been empowered to overrule the legislature. That's another way of totalitarianism and authoritarianism to creep into your society when the people lose their ability to have a voice, a representation that decides what the courts will say, not the other way around. Now, all Canadians benefit from crude oil, and we can see in this graph right here, the people who block the export of this energy are acting against the interest of all Canadians. Well, that would be the Liberals. This is because Canada is highly indebted, has zero productivity growth, and is suffering from capital flight. Yes, we have covered that capital flight. People are just taking their wealth with them. I did a little piece of that on my gardening channel of all places. Without crude oil's significant contribution to our trade balance, Canada would face either internal devaluation, hmm, painful fiscal austerity, right? Which we've already had because the Liberals have printed money like drunken sailors on meth to party with their buddies. Or external devaluation, a lower currency, higher inflation, and fiscal austerity. So let's bring up this thing if we can look at it a little bigger. Here we have our energy products, and they mirror exactly, and valleys also mirror our production of those things. And as you can see, they are both dropping. They've peaked as much as they can. Now let's get into Bill C-242. Crime is out of control in Canada, and that is by design. The Liberals wanted to destabilize our society, and they have created fear throughout the entire society. First, you had to fear the government back in 2020 with their COVID mandates. You had to fear your neighbor who didn't take the jab. You had to fear the conservatives. You had to fear Donald Trump. You always have to be afraid of something. With the Liberals, for them to have control over you. Because with that fear, they control you. As soon as you're afraid of something that they told you to be afraid of, and you accept that fear, they have power over you. Stop being afraid of what they are telling you to be afraid of. Start paying attention to what they are doing to you in society. And that is why Bill C-242 was enacted. Now here's a little clip. It's a video that we released just before our live stream.
Absolutely ridiculous. The prime minister, who was supposed to be this new, shiny prime minister, promised to get changes done right away. In his own words, he said he'll be decisive. Every single day that goes by, Mr. Speaker, 1,600 people are victims of crime. The member talks about being patient. He wants us to be patient when people are dying in this country. Shame on them. Shame on them, because people are actually dying.
So the member introduced the bill, and when the government finally had a chance to say something, it's very telling. It's very telling in their response that for them, it's all about optics. It's not about Canadians. It's not about saving people's lives. It's not about serving the interests of their constituents. It is solely about them, not you.
Speaker, I find it somewhat unfortunate in the sense that, just under 6 months ago, Canada elected a new prime minister, which put together a number of agenda items that came out of the election. One of the commitments that the prime minister has made was to bring forward bail reform legislation that is going to be coming out this fall. Now, the conservatives in a preemptive strike feel that, what we're going to do, we're going to try to come out and say we're tough and blame the prime minister for not doing enough. There's a responsibility of the Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, to do the proper consultation, work with the Cabinet and the many different stakeholders in order to present that bail reform legislation. Does the member not recognize that there is that need, and can he not be patient?
Order. Can you not be patient? Right. Well, if you listen to the member describe the horrors that he's been told by his constituents, people can't wait. People are not waiting anymore. Right? This is getting desperate. And we warned everybody. Nobody would listen to us. Everybody's too afraid of Orange Man bad. You cannot trust the Conservatives to run the government because Orange Man bad. And, Pierre Poilievre was just like Orange Man. So we had to save us from him. And what did they do? The first thing they did is they shut down Parliament after the election. They didn't stay running through the summer when apparently there was this massive trade crisis. Oh, no, off he goes on vacation. And they leave all their horrible laws in place that are killing Canadians. Yeah, death cult. That's what these people are. Just an obvious death cult because they make excuses for death. I don't know how else to get around that. If you're making excuses for death, I'm sorry, I think you're in a death cult. I think the word death is one of those words that ruins your algorithm. Doesn't matter. Don't care. Feel good about the truth. Now, here's Clyde do something. And he's just showing you how badly our economy is doing, right? How is North America's economy doing under Donald Trump and Mark Carney? Well, 0.5% growth during the same period from April to June of this year. And we know that numbers are a lot worse and will continue to get a lot worse because that was part of the entire Liberal plan, right? Well, now you're going to live it. Now you're going to live it. Now I guess we're going to find out what's going to happen with the budget, right? The Bloc Québécois said they are not going to support the budget. So that means that the Liberals need a couple of votes, and they will need to get them from the NDP. Now, yesterday, the leader of the NDP was called into a private meeting with the Prime Minister. I wonder exactly what they were talking about. I wonder if they're going to design some new supply management arrangement with the NDP to buy their votes to allow this next disastrous budget to go through. Because if this budget does go through, yeah, we've already got a fork stuck in us, and we've already been turned over on the grill because we're done. This next bill is just going to pour gasoline all over the charcoal fire that you've got cooking your meat on, and everything's going to blow up after that. Everything's going to go. You're going to see complete financial collapse because we're already on our way there, and they are not doing anything to stop it. And speaking of stopping it, here we have the ongoing digital ID counter in the UK, where there's a petition to stop introducing the digital ID. Nobody wants this thing. Everybody knows why you introduced this. It's what I've been talking about so far in this preamble to today's question period. It's just like they did in the UK, just like they're doing in Canada, just like they're doing in Australia. They are purposefully destroying their society through their legislation by, especially in the UK, allowing all this rampant crime to happen, uncontrolled mass immigration for an island nation that ruled the planet with their navy, that has a centuries-old navy that can protect, that has protected Great Britain many times in the past, then all of a sudden they cannot. Yes, we know why. Because there's no political need for them to protect themselves against mass immigration, uncontrolled mass illegal immigration, because that's what they wanted to do to their country, so that they could create this crime situation, so that it could bring in this digital ID, because, oh, it's for your safety. It's for your safety. It's the old cry, the old status of all time. And if you think it's not going to happen in Canada, you know it's coming, because as a matter of fact, the government has already been commissioning studies on it, right?
Canada has been shaped by visionaries who understand that our strength lies in connectivity, collaboration, and innovation. Just as the railway first connected Canadians, establishing new trading relationships and uniting the country, a Made in Canada digital ID and authentication framework has the capacity to connect Canadians to each other and the world. The promise of the digital economy is enormous. Opportunities abound to connect businesses with customers, governments with citizens, and Canadians with each other. Today, Mary from Salouet in northern Quebec needs to wait for a banker to fly in to open her first bank account. Vickis, a clothing designer in Toronto, needs to send multiple courier packages back and forth to finalize a contract with June, a retailer in Vancouver. Karen in Regina needs to fill out a hard copy of a waiver and provide a copy of her property taxes to prove her residency so that she can register her daughter in the Community Hockey League.
How old is this video? There's a lot of stuff here that people just don't do anymore. A lot of stuff is just done over the phone, taking pictures with their phones of documents. And banking, well, banking, most of it's done online. But everything that they're promising here doesn't really matter because the government can just take it away. As a matter of fact, they can freeze your bank accounts. They've already done that multiple times, and they've done it since the freedom protests. Indeed. Yes, I still haven't heard why that PPC candidate who had to move to Mexico to get away from this bloody shithole we call Canada, and she decided to run in the last election because she's still a Canadian resident, and for some reason the government went and froze her bank account. It's very interesting. Of course, to bring in legislation, right, where they can just turn off your internet, they can basically deperson you. Turn off your internet, and you can't have a phone. How the hell are you supposed to get around and be part of this digital universe if they can just make you a non-person? Oh, that's the whole point, isn't it? Right? Once they get digital ID, and you have to have digital ID in order to participate in every aspect of society, well, that's when they can turn you off. That's about as close as you can get to the number of the beast. Let's listen to some more of this BS.
Now, let's consider a different world. A world where Canadians can connect and interact securely online. A world where privacy by design shapes how personal information is managed.
Sorry, did they say security? Government data breaches are out of control. We have a government that can't tell the difference between a girl and a boy, and we want to trust them with our security data, right? We have a government that's purposefully destroyed our borders and allowed criminality to run wild, but we're going to allow them to do this. That's enough of this. Let's move on to the next panel. Right, and as a reminder as to why we don't need...
Halt! This is a Brit card checkpoint. Present identification for labour allocation.
I've got me card.
Brit card valid.
Proceed.
Next.
Please,
relocation.
You know what happened last week, Rodders? They shut me down. Council fella turns up, flashes a badge, all because I wouldn't take one of them flaming Brit cards.
You got closed for that?
I said cash only, pal. He says no Brit card, no life.
You will recognise Palestine. Recognise it immediately or you will be exterminated.
All right, I recognise Palestine, I swear. Just don't hurt anyone.
Affirmation received. Identify yourself. Present Brit card for service.
Sorry? A Brit card? I've just got a bank card.
Brit card required. Proof of Britishness mandatory to procure. Sir, no Brit card to board this bus. Present it. Present it
I
immediately.
haven't got one.
Look, I've got cash.
Can't you just take
Payment
that?
in currency is not accepted. You are not compliant.
Wait!
I'll get off all right. Just let me produce your Brit card.
My what?
You are consuming without authorization. Show the Brit card or face sanction.
I don't know what that is.
Product vaporization.
I could stay like this forever.
Violated Brit card. Intrusion detected.
What the? Is that a Dalek?
Human, you have shared an opinion on social media. Present your Brit card.
My what? I don't have one.
Unacceptable. You will be vaporized. Come. Now present your Brit card.
I don't have one, mate.
Non-compliance. Extermination.
So where does this all lead us? The government's out of control. Day after day, measure after measure. and especially over the last 10 years, they have been slowly chipping away at every one of our freedoms. And one of the things that they introduced into our government and into our society had been worked on for years in the universities, and this final time that the Liberals came into power in 2015, this was their time to finally bring in critical theory. Critical theory is basically a Marxist doctrine of completely deconstructing everything, right? So you cannot accept Western values and then you go through and you deconstruct them. And then if you don't apply the deconstruction theory to it, then you're racist. That's the entire aspect of diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? Because as part of this deconstruction aspect, you have to acknowledge your own fault, acknowledge your own situation that created so many victims in the past, and that your mere presence in speaking certain words will offend them, right? So you can't say those words anymore. In fact, you can't even hold those opinions anymore. That's DEI, right? And then, of course, it's because it's Marxism. And that's how Lysenkoism came to be in the Soviet Union. If you don't know what Lysenkoism is, find out how many people starved to death because of that fake, false science. It's the same science aspect that was applied during the COVIDity stupidity when they said, you have to get the injection, right? You have to take it because it feels good, right? We have a good feeling about this vaccine that it will save lives, that it will stop transmission. And they ran their entire campaign on feelings, and it worked really well too, because people that didn't feel the same way about the vaccine were told that their feelings were wrong. In fact, they felt so strongly about it, they canceled you. They canceled your jobs, they canceled your life, they made you a second-class citizen, you couldn't leave the country, you couldn't go into restaurants or theaters, you bored here. Because of feelings. Well, how do those feelings get to you in the end with the actual workings of this injection? How does that work out for you? I know. But DEI is a destructive Marxist ideology, and it has destroyed everything in government. Everything that the government touches has to have now DEI in it, right? And if it doesn't, well, then you're now getting a contract. Okay, so then what happens? What happens? One of the biggest things that the government's been involved with is our science and their scientists and all their labs and all that, because they need to be connected to that. So what have they done in the last 10 years? This is what they've done.
Thank you. This year, my long-held NSERC Discovery Grant was not renewed, not for any scientific reason, but for a political one. Specifically, I was unable to profess sufficiently enthusiastic support for the official state ideology of equity, diversity, and inclusion, or EDI, which one now must do to receive Tri-Council funding. Essentially, scientists must say how they will recruit diverse people and identify and address systemic barriers to inclusion. I attempted to meet these requirements by arguing that because EDI requires racial discrimination and speech restrictions, policies opposed by most Canadians, EDI is itself a barrier to inclusion. To overcome this barrier, I proposed ensuring that EDI critics feel included and that we prioritize a culture of free speech and viewpoint diversity, without which science simply cannot flourish. The NSERC Evaluation Committee obviously did not buy my interpretation of EDI. Unhelpfully, my rejection was accompanied only by the vague scolding that I did not, quote, describe an approach to recruit a diverse HQP and provide an inclusive training environment, unquote. While friendly enough, NSERC program officers couldn't tell me what this meant. Luckily, a senior administrator at my university who speaks Tri-Council could decipher this message. He relayed to me that, while I don't have to sincerely support EDI, I most certainly must give the impression that I do. Just say what needs to be said and get your money. To attract a diverse array of candidates, for example, I was told it's not enough to assume that those interested in my work will seek me out with a simple email. Instead, I must boldly proclaim my commitment to finding diversity at intersectional sanctuaries like the Campus Rainbow Center. This is puzzling advice, not least because of those struggling to find people on the internet. It seems unlikely that foremost among them are members of the gay community. Now, senior administrators are very attuned to the linguistic practices surrounding the acquisition of public funds. So this advice rings broadly true. The Tri-Council aims to tell us what to think and what to say. For skeptics, Let me quote from the EDI Best Practices Guide.
Release.
It says, systemic barriers may be unseen to those who do not experience them, but nonetheless, all individuals must recognize that systemic barriers exist. It would be charitable to describe this as pseudoscience. Reputable scientists require experimental results to be universally observable and replicable by people of other languages and cultures centuries into the future. Claiming that knowledge is invisible to some people, based on skin color, for example, is anti-science. In other words, the government requires scientists to affirm the existence of phenomena that are not empirically verifiable. To invoke Paul McCartney, it's beginning to feel like we're back in the USSR. So how has this nonsense so completely permeated Canada's research ecosystem? Well, after a few cancellations, people fall in line. Fear leads to self-censorship, and open, vigorous debate fizzles out. I've tried to discuss EDI on campus a few times with the following results. First, I was told that EDI is not debatable by two different administrators on two separate occasions. Second, I was kindly advised to stop talking about EDI because I have a family. I should think about my kids, I was told. It made me wonder, do I work for a public university or Tony Soprano? To summarize, Tri-Council EDI requirements are compelled political speech, and we find ourselves here because many have allowed themselves to be silenced. I will leave you with two broad recommendations that I believe are critical for restoring the integrity of science. The first is corrective, is science funding. This includes, among other things, removing EDI requirements. As a preventative measure, entrench a culture of free speech, which is the best defense against bad ideas. All recent manias, from gender medicine to EDI, could have been avoided had they been openly debated from the start. I propose an Office of Devil's Advocacy to fund evidence-based arguments against emerging scientific fads. This builds in viewpoint diversity and ensures that counterpoints are officially aired. Everyone benefits as ideas are defended, sharpened, and refined. I am happy to expand on any of these points during questions, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be heard. Thank you.
And that is exactly why those changes won't come into place. What he explained just there is what anyone who studied communism understands, is that communist Marxists are gangsters, goons. And that is how they are able to push their ideology, is through threats and intimidation and violence. It always comes down to violence eventually. You do not build a mountain of skulls in homage to communism like they did in Cambodia. Actually, they built a whole dam using human bodies. You don't do that kind of evil if you have ethics, values, and morals, right? But communists and Marxists do not have those. They will talk specifically about their ideological compromises that they have made to believe whatever fantasy that creates this cognitive dissonance that keeps reality out of their fantasy bubble. And the only way that they can reinforce that is by ensuring that other people think like them. And they can only do that through intimidation, because if anybody thinks about it long enough, they're going to say, hey, wait a minute, aren't you being a hypocrite? Oh, no, you can't question the ideology. Think of your family. Think of your job. And that's exactly what's happened throughout Canada and throughout the entire Western nations where they have enacted diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, let's make sure we're keeping tabs here on our... Yes, they are still doing statements of the members, and the question period should be starting very shortly. So as a result, people aren't going to stand for this, and they're just going to go somewhere else now. Oh, looks like they might be... No, that's just another statement. So in the States, luckily, they are at war with the woke ideology. Finally, they are starting to purge this diversity, equity, and inclusion. The worst place that it happened, of course, was in their military under Biden. It first started under Obama, but then it got turned around when Trump came in the first time. But then once Biden came back in, full bore. You saw a transgender admiral appointed to their health department for as the what was he? Some kind of military health guy, surgeon general, surgeon admiral. I don't know. It was crazy, crazy stuff, right? And then people, of course, are just leaving their armed forces. Now, of course, as soon as Trump came back in, whoop, turn it right back around. Well, that DEI is throughout all of the federal government now. The Liberals have instituted that. And as far as the military is concerned, the current Chief of Defense Staff, that was her bailiwick. That's what she was put in charge to do. She instituted diversity, equity, inclusion, and when she got that pushed throughout the entire forces, and then it started being pushed in when people were working from home and had to be certain gaps from each other. If they had to show up to work, they had to be in mass or all under pressure and fear. And then they introduced this new ideology in work, political ideology. And our military is supposed to be politically neutral. But once you institute Marxism, cultural Marxism through DEI, well, then that's it. All your federal departments are no longer ideologically neutral because they have that Marxist ideology. They are now all far left. So that is the legacy the Liberals have done to Canada. They have instituted far leftism in all the departments, and it is now a requirement for you to be to far left and to agree with these far left ideas. And if you don't, just as was described here by this scientist, they will intimidate you, and that assassination happened down south with Charlie Kirk. Well, it's because that's the inevitable end of this hateful ideology. Because the only way for you to intimidate people is by what? Intimidating them. And how's the best way of intimidating people? Through violence. If fear doesn't work, if threats don't work, the next step is actually carrying them out. And that's what always happens with communism, leftists, and cultural Marxism, because they know that in the end, the only way for them to win is to kill all the opposition. That's a historical fact. That's what's happened in China. That's what happened in Russia. That's what happened in Cambodia. That's what happened in Vietnam. That's what happened in Tibet. That's what happened in many other places. Oh, and it looks like we have still statement by members. Yes, we do. They're still statementing. Very important for them to get those statements out. There's very few times they get to recognize their own constituents, if they want to, by saying something to them that will be forever inscribed into the Hansard. I wonder if we actually had another panel while we were waiting. Oh, yes, this is a really good 5 minutes. I think we might save this one for tomorrow because currently we have a Liberal still doing a statement by members. Yeah, still only 4 minutes late so far on starting the question period. Well, what's going on here in Manitoba is that one of Wab Canoe's ministers was not very nice. Her name is Nahani Fontaine, and they're calling for her to be removed for the shameful conduct that she had rationalizing Charlie Kirk's assassination. Of course, we were just talking about far leftism, and here's a prime example of a sitting member in, looks like we're starting.
Monsieur le Président, le corps d'une femme tuée par son conjoint a été trouvé à Saint-Jérôme. Tué par un homme qui avait été arrêté 30 fois auparavant, mais libéré par des lois libérales. Et c'est pas tout. Un enfant de 6 ans a été trouvé avec une pipe de crack dans sa bouche près de Maison Benoît-l'Arbre, là où le fédéral donne un permis d'usage de drogue illégale. Est-ce que le Premier ministre reconnaît que les lois libérales menacent nos enfants, nos femmes et nos citoyens? C'est ça.
Le très honorable Premier ministre.
Monsieur le Président, toutes mes sympathies pour les familles, les amis, les membres de la communauté que le membre vient de mentionner.
dans les cas des membres viennent de mentionner. Nous reconnaissons qu'il faut renforcer les lois en ce qui concerne la liberté en caution. Il y aura un projet de loi compréhensive qui va être déposé dans les prochaines semaines.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, crime victims don't want the Prime Minister's sympathy. They want to know why he's broken his promise. They want to know why liberal bail remains in place, allowing for the same repeat offenders to offend again and again. The body of a woman was found in the last few days in Saint-Jérôme, Quebec, killed by her partner, who had been arrested 30 times before but released on liberal bail. Will the Prime Minister finally scrap liberal bail, or better yet, get out of the way so that we can do the jobs ourselves?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this government is bringing forward comprehensive bail reform. This comprehensive bail reform is based on extensive consultations with the provinces and territories. It's based on extensive discussions with law enforcement. It is based on evidence. It is not based on cut and paste American bail laws. It's a bail law that works. We are tough on crime and firm on the rights of Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
To see the Prime Minister at police, after they have been crying out for this government to scrap liberal bail for years. We have Constable Greg Pershella, who was killed by a man released yet again on bail. We have a woman killed by her husband after he was arrested and released 30 times because of liberal laws. We have 1,600 crimes every single day in this country because of the liberal laws. Will he stop screaming, hollering, and jabbing his finger and scrap liberal bail?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this government, which has been in place for 6 months, has undertaken comprehensive consultations with law enforcement, with the provinces, based on evidence, is bringing forward the toughest bail legislation and sentencing legislation that will work, not one imported from the United States.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the government wants any proof that it's been in place for 10 years. The Justice Minister that Prime Minister named is the guy who ruined our immigration system, and then he went on to ruin our housing system. And now, 6 months after this Prime Minister looked Canadians in the eye and promised to scrap liberal bail, that bail is still in place, and every day, violent repeat offenders are released onto our streets, massacring our people. Will the Prime Minister stop making excuses? They've had 10 years. He's had 6 months. Canadians cannot afford to wait anymore. When will he scrap liberal bail?
Hear, hear. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I am heartened by the knowledge that the members opposite will be supporting comprehensive bail reform when it is brought forward in a few weeks before this House. Bail reform that works, bail reform that's tough on crime, bail reform that is consistent with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Speaker, this government's bail laws violate the charter rights of 1,600 people every single day. Their names are victims. They are the people who get hit over the head with baseball bats, who get robbed, who have their children violated in what should be the safety of their own houses. We have a 3-year-old who was raped by a repeat offender out on liberal release. We have a constable shot to death by someone out on liberal release. And now we have a woman murdered by her own partner who was out on liberal release. How many have to die before he gets rid of liberal bail?
The Right Honourable Prime
Minister. Mr. Speaker, This government is taking measures against crime. We are tightening our borders. We are reinforcing the number of RCMP. We are introducing in the next few weeks the most comprehensive bail reforms and toughening of sentencing laws. Bail reform that will work. Bail reform that will work, not bail reform that is copied from our neighbor to the south.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
They already brought in a bail reform. That is the bail reform that allows the same offenders to be released 150 times a year. His Justice Minister voted to allow repeat offenders, violent sex offenders, to do their sentences in their living room. That is their policy. We have a bill before the House today that we could pass through all stages right now if the Prime Minister didn't care about who got the credit. Will he put aside partisanship and grandstanding and join with us to scrap Liberal bail, save lives for Canadians, or will he just get out of the way?
Here. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms won't just get out of the way as the member opposite wishes.
Here.
What this country needs, what those victims deserve, what all Canadians deserve is bail reform and sentencing laws that work. That is what this government is bringing forward. We invite the members.
Here. L'honorable député de Saint-Jean.
Monsieur le Président, il y a une semaine, le ministre de la Transformation du gouvernement a annoncé la fin des services postaux tels qu'on les connaît, notamment la fin de la livraison à domicile et la fermeture de bureaux de poste. Sans surprise, les postés ont déclenché une grève générale. Cette annonce, c'est littéralement la fin de leur secteur d'activité. Résultat, des passeports séquestrés dans des bureaux de poste, des chèques non distribués, des élections soit reportées, soit en péril. Mais à quoi d'autre est-ce que le premier ministre s'attendait?
Bravo! Le très honorable Premier ministre.
Monsieur le Président, la situation actuelle est comme cela. La Poste Canada n'est plus viable. Ils perdent 10 millions de dollars jour après jour. Il faut avoir des réformes qui sont détaillées dans leur rapport Kaplan. Et il faut avoir un accord entre la société et les syndicats.
L'honorable député de Saint-Jean.
Monsieur le Président, les libéraux sont tellement déconnectés, tellement irresponsables qu'ils ne s'attendaient même pas à la crise qu'ils ont eux-mêmes déclenchée. Pendant 10 ans, ils n'ont rien fait pour moderniser Poste Canada. Pas de réelle consultation, pas de réel débat public sur l'avenir de ce service essentiel, juste le silence et l'inaction. 10 ans plus tard, les libéraux se réveillent, ils mettent le feu, paralysent les...
What's going on? Looks like we had a little...
Ce fouillis-là.
Bravo! Honorable Premier ministre.
Monsieur le Président, Monsieur Kaplan a fait plusieurs consultations avec les travailleurs, avec les intervenants, avec la société, avec tous les Canadiens, avec les Canadiens, les Canadiens, les Québécois et Québécoises, afin de détailler des réformes essentielles pour la Poste Canada. Il faut avoir un accord entre le syndicat et la société. Il faut mettre en œuvre des réformes pour tous les Canadiens.
Exact.
L'honorable député de Laurentides.
De la Poste, qui se demandent si leur métier est en train de disparaître. Ils n'ont pas été consultés. Il y a des milliers de femmes et d'hommes qui attendent un chèque, un passeport ou un autre document important qui se demandent comment ils le récupéreront. Ils n'ont pas été consultés. Il y a des milliers d'entreprises, des PME surtout, qui se demandent comment leurs produits seront distribués. Ils n'ont pas été consultés non plus. Le premier ministre se rend-il compte du bordel qu'il a créé?
Oui.
Le très honorable Premier ministre.
Oui, Monsieur le Président, la Poste Canada donne un service essentiel pour les Canadiens, les Canadiennes, les Québécois et les Québécoises. Mais il faut avoir une société, une entreprise viable. C'est pas acceptable d'avoir une société qui perd jour après jour 10 millions de dollars des contribuants des Canadiens, des Canadiennes, des Québécois, des Québécoises. Ça, c'est pas acceptable. Alors, il faut trouver une vraie solution à long terme.
The honourable member for Oxford.
Liberal bail laws have unleashed crime and chaos on our streets. Their law, C-75, releases repeat violent offenders at the earliest opportunity on the least restrictive conditions. The Prime Minister promised to repeal these dangerous liberal bail laws, but 6 months in, it's the same bait and switch and the laws remain in place. And now, more than half of Canadians don't feel safe in their own homes. So the question is simple. Will the Prime Minister scrap liberal bail or get out of the way so Conservatives can?
Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, while the Conservatives shout empty slogans, we've done comprehensive consultations all summer so that we can get it right. The bail legislation that is going to be presented shortly in this House brings bail reform, harsher sentences, addresses victims of intimate partner violence. Mr. Speaker, the legislation that we're bringing forward is a complete, comprehensive package, and I hope the Conservatives will be able to support it.
That's right. Honourable member for Oxford.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are telling Canadians to be patient, that someday they might act. Tell that to the families of Bailey McCourt and countless others who have lost their loved ones. With these Liberals delaying, 1,600 more violent crimes happen in our streets. That's 1 per minute. Lives are being lost. Families are being destroyed. So the question, again, simple question. Will the Liberals scrap liberal bail, support the Jail Not Bail Act, or get out of the way so Conservatives can clean up their mess?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, community safety has been our top priority. That's why our first pieces of legislation have all addressed this area. Mr. Speaker, one of the most rising types of crime in our country is cyber attacks against our children. Sextortion is rising in this country more than almost anything else. C2 addresses that issue. It gives tools to the police to be able to catch these predators, these child predators that are roaming free in our country. I hope the Conservatives will support
laws
C2.
for this. We didn't need to create new laws. We just
Brantford,
ratified the
Brant
old
South,
laws.
Six Nations.
Liberal laws have unleashed crime and chaos on our street, and it's no wonder their Bill C-75 requires courts to release violent repeat offenders at the earliest opportunity on the least restrictive conditions. The results are devastating, and Markham Malone, a criminal out on bail for attempt murder, shot a man in a home invasion. These Liberals promise bail reform, but just another bait and switch. If he's serious, will the Prime Minister scrap Liberal bail or get out of the way and let Conservatives finally do it?
Here, here.
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, since taking office on April the 28th, this new government has been working on bail reform, Mr. Speaker. We've been consulting with law enforcement across the country, Mr. Speaker. We've been speaking to mayors, we've been speaking to provincial leaders, Mr. Speaker. We will continue to consult and we will continue to bring forward the most comprehensive bail reform this country has ever seen.
The Honourable Member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
It's been a long 6 months since this Prime Minister promised bail reform, and nothing has happened. Instead, these Liberals are obstructing the Conservative Jail Not Bail Act from passing, keeping soft on crime, catch and release laws on the books. Since the Liberals took office, violent crime up 55%, sex assaults up 76%, and gun crime soared a staggering 130%. Enough is enough. When will these Liberals finally protect Canadians, stop liberal bail, and back the Conservative Jail Not Bail Act?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, we will be bringing forward bail reform in very short order, Mr. Speaker. But let me take this opportunity to talk about other legislation that's in the House that the party opposite could pass today. That is Bill C2, Mr. Speaker, which gives law enforcement additional tools to do their job more effectively, to make sure that guns do not come in through our border,
and open
Mr.
up
Speaker.
your mail and stop you from transferring more than $10,000 in cash.
Party opposite to support us.
Member for Parkland.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals unleash crime and chaos on our streets. Under Bill C-75, courts are compelled to release criminals early and under the least restrictive conditions. A woman on house arrest for breaking into a home with a weapon went to our local beach. kidnapped a 5-year-old girl and was found in a canoe holding the girl under the water. She's been charged with manslaughter. This dangerous person should never have been allowed to walk freely on our street. The Prime Minister promised action, and for 6 months he's failed. When will these Liberals scrap their criminal experiments, or will they let Conservatives fix it for them?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, if we wish to discuss criminal experiments, let's talk about the 10-year tattered legacy of the Harper government, which saw every single one, every single piece of its criminal injustice.
That's how bloody desperate they are. They have to go back more than 10 years? Holy crap.
House Leader from the top, please.
If you want to talk about criminal experiments, let's talk about the 10-year tattered legacy of the Harper government, which finished every single time at the Supreme Court of Canada having bills struck down. That is not helping victims, Mr. Speaker. This session of Parliament, we are going to see the true agenda of the Conservative Party. They can vote for C2. They can vote for bail reform. They can vote to restrict intimate partner violence. We will see where the Conservatives stand on criminal justice in this session of Parliament, Mr.
Speaker. Actuellement, il faut savoir que la criminalité a augmenté de 55% depuis que ce gouvernement-là est en place, depuis les 10 dernières années, alors que pendant les 10 années de gouvernement conservateur, on avait baissé de 25% la criminalité. Ça, c'est la réalité, M. le Président. Mais là, aujourd'hui, avec la justice criminelle libérale, ce qu'on voit aujourd'hui, malheureusement, c'est qu'une femme qui a été assassinée par son ex-conjoint, qui a été libérée à 16 reprises sous condition, qui n'a jamais respecté ses conditions. Et pourquoi cet homme-là s'est ramassé à aller voir sa blonde et qu'il l'a tuée?
Monsieur le Président, évidemment, on a constaté des tragédies au Québec et ailleurs au pays, et il faut absolument agir en fonction de ça. Les conservateurs ont eu la chance pendant 10 ans. Ça a toujours fini en champ de ruines, Monsieur le Président, devant la Cour suprême du Canada, où la Cour a totalement démasqué les conservateurs parce que c'était contre la Charte des droits et libertés. Les conservateurs auront la chance. Cette session, et on va les voir, on va voir s'ils veulent de l'action ou ils veulent juste...
L'honorable député de Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles.
Homme qui vient de se faire assassiner. Est-ce qu'elle pense que les lois des libéraux... Est-ce que cette famille-là pense que les lois des libéraux ont aidé à quelque chose? Non. Ce qui est vrai, c'est que ce qu'il faut faire, c'est avoir des lois qui soient justes et qui soient dures envers les criminels. Les criminels vont dans la prison, pas dans les maisons.
L'honorable leader du gouvernement à la Chambre.
C'est une évidence, Monsieur le Président, que les criminels doivent aller en prison et on doit avoir un système de justice et de l'administration de justice qui fonctionne, qui a des principes démocratiques, qui respecte les droits de tout le monde, dont les victimes. Or, cette session, les conservateurs auront la chance de voter pour les droits des victimes, auront la chance de voter pour des lois de gros bon sens contre la criminalité. Est-ce qu'ils vont le faire, Monsieur le Président?
L'honorable député de Saint-Hyacinthe, Bagotville.
Monsieur le Président, encore des nouveaux tarifs pour notre industrie forestière. Washington a annoncé 10 de droits de douane supplémentaires pour notre bois d'œuvre, déjà confronté à des tarifs de 35 Mais c'est pas tout. Donald Trump annonce aussi des tarifs de 25 pour nos produits du bois, comme les armoires, par exemple. Et pendant ce temps-là, l'aide annoncée par Ottawa au mois d'août n'est toujours pas disponible. C'est défaite après défaite pour le premier ministre, notre sauveur autoproclamé face à Trump. Mais le sauveur, il pourrait-tu commencer par sauver notre industrie du bois?
L'honorable ministre de l'Industrie.
Monsieur le Président, bien entendu, nous prenons bonne note des nouveaux tarifs qui ont été imposés par l'administration américaine et en même temps, nous sommes en complet désaccord avec ces tarifs et c'est pourquoi nous sommes là pour aider l'industrie du meuble. C'est pourquoi nous sommes là également pour aider l'industrie du bois d'œuvre. Aujourd'hui, le programme pour soutenir nos PME via DEC a été lancé. J'espère que je vais pouvoir compter sur l'appui de mon collègue pour aider les entreprises dans son comté et au Québec. Merci.
L'honorable député de Saint-Hyacinthe, Bagotville.
Monsieur le Président, c'est défaite après défaite pour le premier ministre face à Trump. Aujourd'hui, nouveau tarif sur le bois. Hier, on apprend qu'il y a des tractations pour faire rentrer plus de lait américain. L'été passé, c'est la taxe sur les services numériques qui est imposée aux géants du Web que le premier ministre décidait de sacrifier. Défaite après défaite, et ça affecte principalement la forêt québécoise, le lait québécois et la culture québécoise. Est-ce que le premier ministre peut enfin se tenir debout pour l'économie québécoise?
L'honorable ministre de l'Industrie.
Tous les jours, notre gouvernement se lève debout pour l'économie québécoise. D'ailleurs, il y a eu des bonnes nouvelles à Saint-Bruno-de-Montarville, 150 nouveaux emplois chez Alstom. Et je pourrais continuer. D'ailleurs, demain, et j'espère que mon collègue va être là, une bonne nouvelle aussi de la part de Boeing chez CAE pour avoir plus d'emplois dans le secteur de l'aérospatiale. Voilà. Ceci dit, sur la question des tarifs, ils sont injustifiés. Nous sommes là pour l'industrie. J'espère que je peux travailler avec mon collègue pour aider son secteur dans sa circonscription, mais au-delà de ça, la gestion de l'offre n'est pas sur la table et la culture québécoise ne sera jamais sur la table.
The honourable member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Liberal bill has unleashed crime and chaos in our streets. Their weak law bill C-75 requires courts to release repeat violent offenders at the earliest opportunity. Recently, 3 suspects were arrested for a series of home invasions in Vaughan. And guess what? Surprise, surprise, 2 of them are out on bail. This Prime Minister promised Liberals would flip-flop on bail. But 6 months after he came to power, weak Liberal laws are still on the books. So will he do the right thing, scrap a Liberal bail, or get out of the way and let us do it?
That's right. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, when the honourable member poses a question about repealing Bill C-75, I would suggest that it's a good idea that he read it in its entirety. He does not seem to understand that the bill actually makes it harder for people who are charged with intimate partner violence to receive bail. Now we are willing to work in good faith with members of any party to strengthen the bail system, have harsher penalties for serious crimes, and most importantly, to keep Canadians safe. The only question I have is whether the Conservatives will support.
The reality doesn't display that. The stats are completely opposite.
The only thing the Liberals seem to do with any speed around here is manufacture excuses for their inaction. Meanwhile, in the last 8 weeks, York Region has seen 914 assaults, 296 vehicle thefts, and 174 break-and-enters. We know what to do. Mayors, police chiefs, and Canadians all across this country have been calling on this Liberal government to scrap their failed bail laws, C5 and C75. So, Mr. Speaker, Canadians are watching. Will this Prime Minister do the right thing, scrap Liberal bail laws, or get out of the way so Conservatives can do it for them?
More misery for you, Canada.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives stand here and lecture us about criminal justice, but Canadians remember their record time and time again. They imposed unconstitutional mandatory minimums, piled on cruel punishments, and tied the hands of judges, only to have the Supreme Court strike them down, each decision time and time again. And now they claim that we're not acting on bail reform. It's a bit rich. And the truth is, since making our commitment, the Minister has been working with provinces and territories, consulting police chiefs, police associations, and frontline stakeholders to get this right.
Notice how these Marxists defer their legislation to the courts.
Seneca brutally sexually assaulted, choked, and nearly killed a 3-year-old little girl in Niagara. This crime has mobilized my community and galvanized an effort to have the criminal code changed so monsters like this never see the light of day again. The Conservative Jail Not Bail Act will restore safe streets and keep vile perpetrators like Daniel Senecal in jail. The government can act right now by supporting our legislation. Will the Prime Minister scrap Liberal bail or get out of the way and let Conservatives do it?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, it's exactly cases like that, which is the reason why we are taking the action that we are. With C9, we made it. With C9, we made
harder mode. You have the constructive
first-degree offense, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank the Conservatives for allowing that bill to go to committee. C9 has created more hate-related crime offenses in the code, which, with tougher penalties, Mr. Speaker, C2 also brings tough on crime legislation as well. And I'm afraid that the Conservatives think it's too tough and have not been.
That's because C9 will arrest you without warrant. You don't know who your accuser is, and they can throw you in jail for life.
Bail has
unleashed crime and chaos on our streets. One recent example was a home invasion where the perpetrator was out on bail. Their law, C-75, requires courts release violent career criminals at the earliest opportunity under the least onerous conditions. This Prime Minister promised the Liberals would flip-flop on bail, but it was a bait and switch. With the bail law still in place 6 months after he took power, will this Prime Minister scrap Liberal bail or get out of the way and let Conservatives do it?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, we have committed to bringing forward comprehensive bail reform legislation, Mr. Speaker, that we will do over the next several weeks. But I also want to be clear, this issues around bail is not just the responsibility of the federal government, Mr. Speaker. It also involves the provinces. It's up to the provinces to fund their courts adequately. It's up to them to ensure that their justice of the peace as well as the judges are trained, Mr. Speaker. It's also important that they have facilities to hold. So it's a comprehensive approach where the federal government's ready to do its part. We invite the province to do the same.
The Honourable Member for Abbotsford South Langley.
Mr. Speaker, Liberal bail policies have unleashed crime and chaos on our streets. Swift Radio 12 a.m. in Surrey was struck by gunfire on Monday night. Thankfully, no one was inside at the time, but our communities live in constant fear that next time they won't be so lucky. No one should have to fear for their safety while simply doing their job. But after 10 years of Liberal soft on crime policies, this has become far too common. Enough empty promises. The Liberals have failed to act. Will this Prime Minister get serious on extortion and adopt our Conservative bill, or will he get out of the way and let the Conservatives do it?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians deserve to feel safe in their communities. Our government is cracking down on repeat violent offenders with the new legislation that will be forthcoming to strengthen bail, strengthening sentencing and court efficiencies. We are working closely with provinces and territories to reform bail, sentencing and address delays, giving police and prosecutors stronger tools to keep violent offenders off our streets. This is what Canadians want. This is what they elected us to do, and that's exactly what we will do.
L'honorable député de Terrebonne.
Monsieur le Président, le régime canadien de soins dentaires est un grand succès. Ce matin, la ministre de la Santé a annoncé que plus de 5 millions de Canadiens et Canadiennes bénéficient maintenant d'une couverture sous le programme. Dans ma circonscription, des gens m'ont confié que ce programme leur a permis de consulter un dentiste pour la première fois depuis des décennies, ce qui leur a évité de devoir se rendre aux urgences pour des problèmes dentaires. La ministre
So 71% of people who applied for this dental program got a surprise in the mail. They got said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're not covered. The Liberals lied to you. Now pay up." But they still keep talking about it like it's a great thing.
Les soins dentaires est l'un des programmes sociaux les plus importants de l'histoire de notre pays. Et je rappellerai que les conservateurs et le Bloc avaient voté contre. Chaque jour, plus de Canadiens ont accès aux soins dentaires abordables dont ils ont besoin et cela leur permet d'économiser jusqu'à $800 par année. Je voudrais terminer en exprimant mes remerciements à tous les dents.
Excepté pour le 71% qui ne sont pas capables de l'avoir.
Merci.
Honorable député de Bellechasse-les-Échemins, Lévis.
Monsieur le Président, le Premier ministre a promis une réforme de sa très mauvaise justice pénale, mais 6 mois plus tard, rien n'est fait. Mais il continue de remettre en liberté des récidivistes dangereux. Je rappelle que sous les libéraux, depuis les 10 dernières années, les agressions sexuelles ont augmenté de 76 %. Les conservateurs proposent une loi qu'on peut adopter très rapidement. La prison, pas de caution pour protéger les Canadiens. Vont-ils abandonner le régime de caution libérale, Monsieur le Président? Sinon, qu'ils s'enlèvent du chemin. On va s'en occuper, nous autres.
L'honorable secrétaire parlementaire du ministre de la Justice.
Monsieur le Président, la réalité, c'est que dans l'ancien projet de loi C-75, nous avons renforcé la réponse du Canada à la violence entre partenaires intimes, en définissant le terme partenaire intime dans le Code criminel et en créant un renversement de fardeau de la preuve pour les auteurs récidivistes des violences entre partenaires intimes. Et donc, Monsieur le Président, les Canadiens méritent un débat basé sur les faits. Si les conservateurs veulent abroger un projet de loi qui rend plus difficile l'obtention de la libération sous caution pour les auteurs des violences entre partenaires intimes, ils devraient le dire clairement aux Canadiens.
L'honorable député de Bellechasse, les Échemins-Lévis.
La réalité, c'est pas ça, Monsieur le Président. Québec compte déjà 14 féminicides présumés depuis le début de l'année. Dernièrement, l'une d'entre elles aurait été assassinée par son conjoint au lourd passé judiciaire en matière de violence conjugale, en plus d'avoir commis 16 bris de conditions. Mais il est en liberté, Monsieur le Président. Depuis l'arrivée des libéraux au pouvoir, la criminalité violente a augmenté de 55 %, les homicides de 30 %, les agressions sexuelles de 76 % Ça leur prend combien de femmes violées, de femmes assassinées, de jeunes abusés, Monsieur le Président, pour comprendre puis changer les lois? Merci.
L'honorable secrétaire parlementaire du ministre de la Justice.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Lorsque l'honorable député pose sa question sur l'abrogation du projet de loi C-75, je suggère fortement qu'elle prenne le temps de les lire d'abord et complètement. Elle ne semble pas comprendre que ce projet de loi rend en réalité plus difficile l'octroi de la libération sous caution aux personnes accusées de violences entre partenaires intimes. Nous sommes prêts à travailler de bonne foi avec les députés de tous les partis pour renforcer le système de libération sous caution.
L'honorable député de Bellechasse, les Échemins-Lévis.
Moi, je lui suggère de lire la chronique de Patrick Lagacé, publiée ce matin dans la presse. Il dénonce un système de justice qui protège des criminels dangereux récidivistes au lourd passé judiciaire qu'on relâche dans la nature, Monsieur le Président, et qui s'occupe des victimes. Personne dans ce gouvernement. Ils avaient promis d'agir, de démolir leurs lois qui n'ont aucun sens. Il ne se passe rien. Peuvent-ils agir, adopter notre loi en faveur des victimes? Sinon, qu'ils s'enlèvent du chemin, ben on va le faire, nous autres, Monsieur le Président.
So the Liberals just keep reading from the script. They will do nothing. Nothing for you.
Monsieur le Président, nous avons pris le temps cet été de faire une tournée pour de discuter et de voir avec les procureurs de la Couronne, les associations policières pour mettre en œuvre un système de réforme sur liberté sur caution correct. On ne voudrait pas se retrouver dans une situation d'ériger n'importe quelle loi pour que, justement, par la suite, elle sera débattue devant la Cour suprême et possiblement rejetée. Nous prenons le temps nécessaire pour faire les choses correctement.
On n'est pas cinglé. On voit comment ça fonctionnait avant l'année 2015.
Gulfam Hussain, a Pakistani national, was convicted of in the United Kingdom for, quote, adult sexual activity with a female family member aged 13 to 17, offender over 18, penetration. Said differently, Hussain had incestuous sex with his underage niece, and he was placed on the UK's sex offender registry. Yet in 2023, the Liberals granted Hussain a visa to enter Canada. Can the Liberals explain why they allowed a publicly listed incestuous child sex abuser into Canada?
It's because
the Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Canadians' trust in their immigration system is paramount. That's why we're constantly working to improve immigration security screening processes, particularly in responses to new challenges and pressures. We have Border Bill C2, and I invite my colleagues to help us pass that bill that will further strengthen our immigration system.
Wow.
The Honourable for Calgary-Nose Hill.
It seemed the Liberals couldn't do a simple Google search on an incestuous child sex abuser. Nonetheless, the person who let this person into Canada is now, thanks to the Prime Minister, our Justice Minister. And instead of deporting Hussain, right now the Liberals are letting him gum up Canada's court system. This is truly disgusting, and it's antithetical to what it means to be Canadian. And the person who allowed this incestuous child sex abuser should be fired. So why did the Prime Minister promote the Immigration Minister who allowed an incestuous child sex abuser into Canada to Minister of Justice?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has a robust system of determining who's admissible and who's not admissible to Canada, Mr. Speaker. I would like to just confirm that the Canada Border Service Agency is working to remove the largest number of people in Canadian history, Mr. Speaker. Over 20,000 people targeted to be removed who are inadmissible to Canada, and we're doing it as we speak, Mr. Speaker. We'll continue to work with law enforcement, we'll continue to work with CBSA to ensure our borders are safe, and those who are undesirable in Canada will not be permitted to come here.
Honourable member for pedophiles, psychopaths, and crazy people.
Handled Donald Trump. Trump promised he would quickly negotiate a win. For Canadian workers, it has been nothing but losses. We have the second highest unemployment rate in the G7. Invista is closing their plant in Maitland and moving to Texas. 100 jobs gone. Cap Paper and Kapuskasing is shutting down. 350 jobs gone. In Oshawa, GM is shifting truck production south. Hundreds of jobs gone already and thousands more at risk. When will this Prime Minister finally keep his promises, stop losing jobs, and start standing up for Canadian workers?
Here, here, here. The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Mr. Speaker, just a few weeks ago, I stood with the building trades unions and the Prime Minister as we announced the first 5 projects that will be managed by the Major Projects Office Coalition. And Mr. Speaker, this is good news for Canadians because we're laser focused, Mr. Speaker, on creating jobs and supporting the training that Canadians need to seize those opportunities. What they get from the Conservatives, Mr. Speaker, they get fear-mongering, they get hate, Mr. Speaker. And you know what else they get, Mr. Speaker? They get them voting against
interest over at
People who fear-monger about Trump all the fucking time. Fucking give you. People fear-mongering. Mr. Promise. He would have
deal with Trump by July 21st. Well, it's October. He has no deal, and Canada is bleeding jobs. Imperial Oil is shutting down in Calgary. 900 jobs gone. Thousands of forestry jobs in BC are at risk because he hasn't got a softwood lumber deal done. He promised he would create middle-class jobs, but instead he's lost 86,000 jobs since he became Prime Minister. When will this Prime Minister abandon his job-killing policies here at home and finally keep his promise to get a deal and save Canadian jobs?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Well, one thing we agree with the members of the opposition, Mr. Speaker, is that it is time for all hands on deck, and that's what this Prime Minister has been saying ever since the election and before. This is a time for Canadians to pull together. In fact, the provinces and territories recognize that. They're investing in Canadian workers, they're investing in training, they're investing in major projects. You know who's standing against Canadians, Mr. Speaker? Only one group, and that's the Conservative Party of Canada.
We're the bunch of liberals to pull their hand out of our pockets.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is saying a lot of things, but no action. He promised he would negotiate a win with the U.S. by July 21st. It's now October, and Canada has the second highest unemployment and the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. This week in Oshawa, auto workers were told more jobs are moving to the United States. It's clear the biggest threat to Canadian jobs is the Prime Minister's broken promises and failure to get a deal. Are Canadians losing their jobs because of his failed diplomacy abroad, his job-killing policies at home, or both?
L'Honorable Ministre de l'Industrie.
Mr. Speaker, this government never talks down our workers, never talks down our economy, never talks down our industries. And we are there to create jobs while we be protecting a lot of jobs. Of course, I hear everything that is happening in the auto sector. That's why we've been there for Oda, for Honda, for Toyota, for Stellantis, for Ford, and for GM. And we've put a remission system in place to make sure that they would protect jobs. Meanwhile, I must say to my honourable colleague that Canada will be the second best country in the G20 for doing business, according to the Economic Intelligence Unit. And among the G7, Canada is ranked 3rd with respect to ease of starting a business.
The Honourable Member for Calgary.
Just a little freeze there on the screen. I don't know why it's broadcasting. Let's see what's going on here. Let's go to a quick pause and start. No? What is going on? Yeah, well, we have connectivity. Well, let's do a quick refresh, see what happens.
Jobs while we keep protecting a lot of jobs. Of course, I hear everything that is happening in.
It has a robust system of determining who's admissible and who's not admissible, Mr. Speaker. We need to work with CBSA to ensure
could handle Donald Trump. Is closing production south.
And the preface, Mr. Speaker. They get hate, Mr. Speaker. And you know what else they get, Mr. Speaker? They get them voting against their own interests over and over. We on this side will take care of Canadians' interests.
The honourable member for Chilliwack Hope.
The Prime Minister promised he would have a deal with Trump by July 21st. Well, it's October because he hasn't. Prime Minister abandoned.
The honourable minister.
As Prime Minister, workers, they're investing in training, they're investing in major projects. You know who's standing against Canadians, Mr. Speaker? Only one group, and that's the Conservative Party of Canada.
The honourable member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is saying a lot of things, but no action. He promised he would negotiate a win with the U.S. by July 21st. It's now October, and Canada has the second highest unemployment and the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. This week in Oshawa, auto workers were told more jobs are moving to the United States. It's clear the biggest threat to Canadian jobs is the Prime Minister's broken promises and failure to get a deal. Are Canadians losing their jobs because of his failed diplomacy abroad, his job-killing policies at home, or both?
L'honorable ministre de l'Industrie.
Mr. Speaker, this government never talks down our workers, never talks down our economy, never talks down our industries. And we are there to create jobs while we keep protecting a lot of jobs. Of course, I hear everything that is happening in the auto sector. That's why we've been there for Oda, for Honda, for Toyota, for Stellantis, for Ford, and for GM. And we've put a remission system in place to make sure that they would protect jobs. Meanwhile, I must say to my honourable colleague that Canada will be the second best country in the G20 for doing business, according to the Economic Intelligence Unit. And among the G7, Canada is ranked third with respect to ease of starting it.
The honourable member for Calgary. Signal Hill.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised Canadians that he would negotiate a win with Donald Trump by July 21st. That was months ago, and Canadians are worse off than we were before. The fastest shrinking economy, the second highest unemployment rate in the G7. All the while, the Prime Minister jetted around the globe. In Calgary, Imperial Oil is cutting 900 jobs. This is a direct result of 10 years of Liberal anti-energy law and policy. Canadians are losing jobs. Is it because of the Prime Minister's failed jet-set diplomacy or his job-killing?
Yeah, the Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, this government has a true plan to build one Canadian economy. And when it comes to building one economy, we've made sure that we would have important national major projects. And we've announced them in the energy sector, including in LNG. And of course, he should ask the Premier of Alberta what she thinks about that.
Right.
The other thing also I would like to say is that the GDP is actually growing. And look at the last numbers in July. And when you look at also what is happening in the country, wages are increasing. And indeed, when you saw 3.3% of growing wages across the country.
The honourable member for Oakville West.
Mr. Speaker, when I talk to my community in Oakville West, I hear a great deal of concern for the world around us. For the last 80 years, the United Nations General Assembly has brought leaders from all backgrounds into one room to bridge political, social, and economic divides. Our Minister of Foreign Affairs was there this past week and reaffirmed Canada's commitment to a more peaceful and prosperous world. Can the Minister share with this House how Canada is confronting the challenges our world is facing?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for her question. Last week at the United Nations, I reiterated Canada's commitment to multilateralism. At a time when countries are retreating towards protectionism, Canada will not retreat. We will continue to be a leader on the world stage. We will strengthen our defence and security. We will strengthen our economic resilience, and we will with these three pillars of Canada's foreign policy, we will build Canada strong.
Hear, hear. Let's not forget 10 killed and injured Canadian Armed Forces troops with an experimental injection.
This Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians. Liberal inflationary spending, the carbon tax, fuel standards, and the plastics ban are all hidden taxes driving up the cost of groceries. Moms and dads are struggling to feed their kids, and food banks are seeing record usage. Still, these Liberals voted against our motion to axe all taxes on food. Nutritious food should not be a luxury, Mr. Speaker. When will the Liberals finally stop taxing food?
Bravo! The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that member opposite maybe hasn't done her own grocery shopping for a while because there is a GST tax on food. I will say this, Mr. Speaker.
Excuse me. Yeah. I mean, I know members want question period to finish as close to 3 o'clock as possible. But if we keep having interruptions, that won't be possible. The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families from the top, please.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'll rephrase it in a way that doesn't insult my member in the way that she feels so insulted. But I will say this, people who are grocery shoppers know that there isn't GST on food in this country. And so it's misleading for the member opposite to pose a question like that in a way that could confuse Canadians. What I can say, Mr. Speaker, is that we have cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. I know that this bill is seeking the approval of this House, and I hope they're not going to vote against the support that Canadians need at this time. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, just yesterday, the Liberals voted against our motion to lower hidden food taxes on Canadians. They voted to keep taxing food with their industrial carbon tax on fertilizer and farm equipment and inflation tax from increasing money spending. These Liberal policies mean families are paying more at the grocery store. Pork is up 37.2% just in March alone. When will the Liberal government finally stop their hidden grocery taxes and provide real relief to Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Let's just debate on facts. And this is what the House of Commons is about. It is about the fact that, indeed, there is no GST on food at the grocery store. But that being said, we also cut taxes.
Not what they said.
On 52 million people across the country. We cut also tax for first-time home buyers across the country, and we cut the carbon tax. So we know that things are sometimes difficult across the country. We will be there for people. That's why we have a strong social safety net. That's why we've done a lot when it comes to dental care, pharmacare, and we'll continue to enhance that social safety net.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Every dollar this Liberal government wastes means higher taxes hidden in Canadian grocery bills, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister hasn't even spared our morning coffee. Since he took office, the price of coffee is up 23%, sugar up 20%. Liberals refuse to scrap the industrial carbon tax, the packaging tax, and the fuel standard tax. The sweet things in life shouldn't come at a bitter price, Mr. Speaker. When will the Liberals finally axe their hidden taxes on food?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
The experts will tell you that the answer to food insecurity is income security. First and foremost, what does that mean? It means good jobs for Canadians, but it also means a stronger social safety net to help support people in their times of need. Both of them require a strong economy in Canada. That's why our government is focused on making generational investments in housing, defense, and infrastructure so we can build the strongest economy in the G7. That's how we'll ensure families can feed themselves for generations to come.
The Honourable Member for Prescott Russell Cumberland.
Mr. Speaker, small businesses in my riding of Prescott-Russell-Cumberland are the heart and soul of my community, and they're the key to building the strongest economy in the G7. But with the current trade situation with the United States, small businesses are facing unique challenges. Can the Minister for Women and Gender Equality and Secretary of State for Small Business share what our government is doing to support small businesses?
The Honourable Minister for Small Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank my honourable colleague for that question. Our government understands that small businesses are the backbone of their Canadian economy, and that's why we launched the Buy Canadian policy that will strengthen supply chains and create more opportunities for small businesses. We made it easier for them to access BDC loans so they can compete, grow, and reach new markets, and we're stepping up to support small businesses, especially those hit by the U.S. tariffs, through the $5 billion Strategic Response Fund. These measures will protect and strengthen Canadian businesses as we build the strongest economy in the G7, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Tobique-Mactaquac.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has said Canadians should judge him by grocery prices. Across Canada, rural families are feeling the pain at the checkout, including in New Brunswick, where groceries are up 23%, far outpacing inflation. Yet yesterday, the Liberals voted against our motion to make food more affordable. Instead, they doubled down on their hidden taxes like the industrial carbon tax, their fuel standards, and their packaging tax, policies that hit rural Canadians hard. When will the Liberals finally stop their hidden tax on food and give Canadians a break at the grocery store?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Tobique-Mactaquac is home to McCain Foods, one of the great Canadian food companies, and whether you're from Johnville or Bristol or Heartland or Woodstock, you have a lot of sense and you know this. There is no tax on food at the grocery store. He knows it, they know it. Big common sense in the St. John River Valley, and we'll keep talking to them and doing stuff.
Isn't it just amazing how they just outright lie after they've been explained what the taxes are? This is your Liberal government.
To combating crime posted on X, and I quote, "On behalf of the Government of Canada, I am announcing that on the advice of our officials, we have deemed the group kneecap ineligible to enter our country." Can the Minister advise if the Parliamentary Secretary was authorized to make this announcement? If yes, who authorized it? Was it the Minister, Department officials, or the Prime Minister's office? If no one authorized it, can the Minister advise what follow action will be taken to address this serious misrepresentation of authority? Canadians deserve to know.
Hear, hear. Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Persons seeking to come to Canada must meet eligibility and admissibility requirements of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act.
Whatever. You let anyone in.
Individually, entry to Canada may be refused for a number of reasons. An individual whose electronic travel application has been declined can reapply by doing an ETA once they've addressed the reasons that it has been refused.
Well, apparently you can be an incestuous pederast and get in, even with all that. So what does it matter?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And following up with the Honourable Minister, this story has made a lot of waves in media. It doesn't seem at all clear that there is evidence that the banned kneecap was deemed ineligible by the department. So since the Minister can't discuss any individual case, can she please confirm whether or not any authorized entity within the Canadian government refused entry to the Irish banned kneecap, or whether it was just one rogue MP?
Okay, the Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Quand j'ai dit que chaque cas est évalué individuellement, toute personne souhaite l'entrée au Canada doit satisfaire les conditions de la loi sur l'immigration, et une personne dont la demande refusée peut présenter une nouvelle demande après avoir expliqué des raisons. Alors, on ne peut pas commenter sur les cas individuels. Merci beaucoup.
Ça met fin à la période des questions.
We're going to ban you from entering, but we'll never tell you why.
En tout cas. Je crois que le whip en chef de l'opposition aurait une question pour le leader du gouvernement à la Chambre, mais j'aimerais peut-être prendre 30 secondes là, pour permettre aux députés de quitter en silence la Chambre.
All right, there's a question that they want to ask the Deputy House Leader from the Conservative side. It's kind of odd. Usually we get points of order or something. But instead of going back to the House orders of the day, to go straight to this question is a little different. And are we going to get to it? Well, while we're waiting for them to do that, some very good... So Pierre today tried to initiate a new phrase for people to start getting hold of. Liberal release and liberal bail. I've also heard liberal diplomacy. I would say liberal statecraft. All of them failures, right? So liberal release. That's liberal bail, liberal crises. Okay, we got...
We're almost there. We're almost there.
No, we're not there, right?
So, the Honourable Chief Government Whip has a question for the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Obviously, it's a Thursday question where we ask the agenda for the government for the upcoming week. And, Mr. Speaker, you will note that during the election, the Prime Minister made a lot of promises. He said that he was going to fix Liberal bail. Specifically, he was going to fix the mess that Justin Trudeau, as well as the vast majority of the Liberals, created by passing Bill C-5 and Bill C-75. I'm wondering, first, Mr. Speaker, if the House Leader will inform the House if or not they will finally be bringing legislation to fix the disaster that they created in the bail system in this country in this upcoming week. Second of all, Mr. Speaker, I would ask, during the election, the Prime Minister promised that by July the 21st of this year, now that's months ago already, he would have a deal with Trump with regards to our trade deal with the United States. Now, over the last number of weeks, we have now learned reports that we have the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. We have the second highest unemployment rate in the G7 as well, Mr. Speaker. The jobs crisis is worsening in this country as we saw announcements from Imperial Oil with 900 job losses in Calgary. We had the announcement of Cap Paper here in Ontario, as well as, of course, GM's announcement that they're going to discontinue production of some of their models here in Canada and move those jobs to the United States. Will the House Leader finally update this House as to if the Prime Minister will fulfill his commitment to get a deal with the United States in this coming week?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
It's funny, those questions didn't make the top 40 of the ones that they wanted to ask today, Mr. Speaker, but of course the Prime Minister and ministers are in regular contact with our friends and neighbors in the United States, and we will be obviously advocating for Canadian workers and Canadian jobs. In terms of criminal justice legislation, well, the member well knows that right now he could stand up and ask for unanimous consent on a very tough border bill that helps this government get tough on crime. We had the chance to vote this week on C9 and move that through the legislative process. And the member need not fret. The legislation is going to be coming fast and furious, and the Conservatives will have a decision to make whether they want to support constitutional bail reform concocted with provinces and territories, victims associations, and all manner of other stakeholders, or will they wish to just keep grandstanding in the way that they do. But in the meantime, Mr. Speaker, we have a very interesting week coming up next week. Commençant avec aujourd'hui, on finit le débat sur la motion de l'opposition du Parti conservateur. Demain, nous reprendrons le débat à l'étape de la deuxième lecture du projet de loi C8, loi sur la protection des cybersystèmes essentiels. Next Monday, we will consider second reading of Bill C11, the Military Justice System Modernization Act. We will continue with this debate again on Wednesday. On Tuesday, we will commence second reading debate of Bill C10, the Commissioner for Modern Treaty Implementation Act. and Thursday, October 9th, shall be an allotted day. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Yes, yes, there's a point of order, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member called on me to stand in this House and call for unanimous consent to pass all stages a bill that would fix the bail system in this country, the liberal bail system that has been broken by this caucus across the way. So I asked for unanimous consent to pass at all stages. Bill C.
Point of order. That's a question. That's a question. That's a question for maybe question period. Je désire informer la Chambre que le volume des oreillettes sera maintenant réuni.
All right, that's the end of it. Just a few things to cover up. Minister Joly was very adamant in saying, we never talk down our industry. Oh, yes, that's right. You never talk down your industry, except, of course, when they don't like the decisions you've made with EV vehicles, right? The auto industry went to you, you bloody liberals, and told you the EV mandate was a disaster. But oh no, you wouldn't listen to the real stakeholders who actually know what's happening on their car lots, and you decided to push ahead. You invested billions of Canadians' dollars in failed EV companies, one after another, going bust, and our money gone. No accountability whatsoever. That's what you're talking about, Minister Joly. We never talk down. Yeah, and you know why they say that? Because every time you point out their failures, that's us talking them down. That's us being against Canada. Why can't you all just come behind us, they say. Right, let's ignore everything you said. Let's ignore the fact that you will never engage and recognize your own failures and learn from them, that you just want to move on and forget the past. That's why people hate you, you bloody liberals. And I mean that in the nicest way. Because, you know, legislation is coming and they will just look at this very podcast and come here and arrest me without warrant and then stick me in jail for hate and feelings. And I will never get to know who accused me, because that's the law they want to push forward in Bill C9, let alone Bill C8, where they could just turn off the internet and your phone and you can't even tell anybody that they did it. That's right. They will deperson you socially, digitally, and you can't tell anybody about it. And if you do, you're going to jail. That's right. That's who these liberals are. Now, they accuse the liberals of holding up votes. Well, for most Canadians who don't know how Parliament works, whenever a bill is introduced, if it goes to committee, that's where it needs to go in order to get all the parties involved, read through it so that the representatives of their constituents can now represent their own values of the people that they represent and make those corrections to those bills so that their values are also represented. But that's not how the liberals work, right? They're all saying, oh, we need to do this now. We don't need to look at it. Just pass everything. Yes, ignore us. Yeah, that's how they want. That's how totalitarians do it. That's how authoritarians do it. That's how communists do it. That's how liberals do it. That's liberal diplomacy for you. And the food tax lies. Oh, yes. Mr. Speaker, everybody knows there's no GST on the food. Oh, my God, it's so sickening to hear these liberals over and over again after they were just explained how all these fees that they've changed the words on them, they're not called an actual tax, but they are a fee. They are a fee imposed on people for doing business by the government. It's a fee that you have to pay. Just because they don't call it a tax doesn't mean it's not a tax. We know what a tax is. If we have to give our money to the government, that's a tax. I don't care what you call it. I don't care if you call it a service fee, if you call it an employment fee, a victim fee, it doesn't fucking matter. Every fee that the government gives us is a tax. It's a tax. You can call it whatever you want. You can eliminate all the taxes in Canada. Yeah, you can say, oh no, it's now your income fee. It's not income tax anymore. It's your income fee. You need to pay a fee for all the income you have. You see, Canada has no more taxes. That's how moronic these liberals are. Absolute freaking morons. They think that we can't just think for ourselves. Well, I guess liberals can't think for themselves. So that's why they need to be told by these liberals how to think. And they would just love all of us just to follow their marching orders every single day. Take a jab, die, don't fucking complain about it. And their dental care line. My God, they keep bringing that up in the House of Commons. We have provided dental. Well, we know. 71% of the people who thought they were getting dental care under this program got a bill in the mail and said, oh, I'm sorry. The liberals lied to you. You're not covered. You got to pay. None of this is free. Nothing's free. In matter of fact, this dental program is paid by the Canadians out of our own pocket. And only a few of them get it, and the rest of us are paying, and we don't get squat. That's right. Money out of our pocket. Money, actually, we don't even have the money anymore because they're spending money we haven't even gotten yet. And finally, experts on food security. What a stupid statement that was. Experts on food security say that the best way to maintain that is to have a good job. Yeah, what have you done to the jobs in Canada? The jobs that people had that were a good job no longer are paying them what it used to because you printed money like drunken sailors on meth because you learned nothing from the Weimar Republic after World War II, World War I, when they just started printing money to try to solve their economic problems. We can just print money and invest in ourselves. And of course, they went bloody bankrupt. And now, of course, in the 2000s, they started to call that quantitative easing to try to confuse people. Quantitative easing is money printing. And on these liberals here in Parliament, in the lower house, will continue to say, we need to invest in ourselves, and we're going to do it all ourselves, and we're going to invest, and we're going to invest. And that's all spending. All bloody spending that they don't have the money for. And their response for all their disasters and their failures that they have is, again, I've said this before, liberals only have one well to go to, and that is to spend. Spend. Oh, tax and spend. That's right. Sorry, it's not a tax. It's a fee. Oh, think about it. It's a fee. Yeah. You're not taxed on your food. Not at all. None whatsoever. All right, we will see you tomorrow morning. And by the way, we have Blazing Camper Fridays tomorrow morning at 9. And then we will be followed by an earlier nap. Question period, the nap earlier, because they are earlier on Friday mornings. I believe we'll be back on at 11:30. Something like that. Yeah, it's about right for the nap tomorrow, but 9 o'clock tomorrow morning for Blazing Capital Fridays. We will see you there. Bye-bye. And let's see if this works. Come on, transition.